Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Well, at long last, I'm back making some cheese. Since the pandemic began in March, I haven't made anything. Initially, there was, well, not tragic food shortages and whatever, but there were different food items that were difficult to get, and I just didn't feel right going out and buying a lot of milk, so I haven't been doing this. I'm going to make Brie, and I have the milk in a stainless steel container here and my sous vide beeping away and set up, bringing it up to a target temperature of 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The recipe that I'm following is on the cheesemaking.com, New England cheese supply company, cheese-making supply company website. Very good recipe. In the past, I have made triple creme, and I have made several times camembert. I've never made Brie. To my taste, I don't know. I've eaten all three bought commercially. I don't see a great deal of difference in them. They look the same, and to me they taste similar. But anyway, I'm going to try Brie and see if my own Brie tastes different than the camembert that I've made in the past. It's 2 gallons of milk. Again, this is an American recipe, and I'm reading to you what they say to add. I bought my milk in Canada, so it's in metric measure. It's not exactly 2 US gallons. You remove 8 ounces of the whole milk and replace it with 8 ounces of heavy cream. And I've already done that. I also have another book with a Brie recipe, and it doesn't do this, so I'm going with this one because of the addition of the heavy cream. It'll take quite a while. That milk goes ice cold out of the refrigerator. With the sous vide, we'll bring it up to 90 degrees, and once it's done that, I'll bring you back and we'll proceed with the making of my first Brie cheese. Well, I just took the temperature of the milk. I mean, this is only a few minutes after that last little clip, and it's at 70 degrees, so it'll take quite a while to get it up to 90. I love the sous vide, though. There's no worries about getting it over the temperature, and it'll just take it up to the 90 and then hold. I did want to mention that this video, or this method of making the Brie, will probably result in at least 3 videos. The one that I'm doing now and that you're watching will probably be the longest one, and then as the process goes on, I'll add a couple of more small videos. This one will hopefully have the cheese in the molds and forming the curd in the molds and forming the cheese, and then I'll do another one when they're dried and salted and whatever and ready to go in a container to start growing the white mold on them. And the final video will probably be when it's ready, 6 or 7 weeks from now, when it's ready to cut and try. So it will be at least 3 videos, I guess is what I'm saying, rather than waiting and putting up one great big long video when it is finished. Well, the milk just reached a target temperature of 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and now it is maintained at that temperature through to the point where you're ready to put it in the molds, which is another great reason for having a sous vide. There's no continual adjusting to try to keep the temperature up. It'll just hold it at that temperature. And I don't know, I know I've mentioned in other videos, the brand name doesn't really seem to make any difference, but this is a Nuovo, N-U-O-V-O. But the thing that I like to emphasize about it, it was the least expensive one on Amazon. I have no intention of ever cooking with it. I just wanted it to maintain water temperature, and this is probably the 4th or 5th batch of cheese that I've made using it, and it works perfectly. So if you don't have one, don't get roped into buying the most expensive one thinking you're getting something that's better. I mean, they have these things now that work off Wi-Fi. You can control them with your smartphone. Why would you want to? I don't understand. It's just another gimmick. I suspect they're all made in China by the same company and they just slap different labels on them. But I went with the least expensive one and I'm very satisfied with it. Well, now that the milk has reached its target temperature, we're going to add the cultures. And the first one is a 1/4 teaspoon of mesophilic culture. I'm going to sprinkle it, disperse it as much as possible over the surface so there won't be any clumps. And the next is a 1/16 of a teaspoon of Penicillium candidium, and that is the mold that will make that white crust on a Camembert or Brie. And a 1/16. I'm using the little set of is that in there? Yeah, a little set of spoons that the New England Cheese Company sells, and I like them. They're accurate. Though my only complaint with them is they have these silly labels on them. A 1/16 is called a pinch, and I have to make sure that I always keep the little bag that it came in so I'll know what we're talking about here. But other than that, they're an excellent thing. I'll make sure I get the right, yeah, Penicillium candidium, a 1/16. And the last one is Geotrichium candidium, which helps, it enhances the flavor. So the other book that I have, not only did it not add any cream, but it doesn't use this particular culture as well. So another reason why I'm going with this one, I guess. I like the method and I like the things that are being added. I'm having difficulty getting in the spoon here. There we go. And this is 1/32 of a teaspoon of Geotrichium candidium. It does not require a lot, that's for sure. I had a little extra on there, so I won't put that all in. There was some back on the handle of the spoon. Now that is allowed to sit and rehydrate for 5 minutes, and then, as you saw me doing a bit ago, I'll use the up and down motion to mix it thoroughly into the milk and cream mixture there, and come back in 1 hour's time. It's allowed to ripen for an hour. Well, it's had its hour to ripen. I just used my instant read digital thermometer to check the temperature, and it is exactly 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So the sous vide is doing its job. Now you add 1/4 of a teaspoon of liquid rennet. I'm using an animal rennet. There are vegetable rennets available. I'll mix that in thoroughly. And because I'm using pasteurized milk, you also add 1/4 of a teaspoon of calcium chloride. Aids in acidifying the milk, I guess. And I mix both of those in 1/4 cup of, for me it's just tap water. I wouldn't want to use any water that had chlorine or anything added, so if you're going to do it and your water is chlorinated, I'd suggest you buy a bottle of spring water or something to use. Some people always tell me that they don't dilute it, they just add it as is and they have good success with it. Creature of habit here, I guess. I've always used it, so I'm carrying on to add the liquid rennet and calcium chloride to a 1/4 cup of water. Well, that's that thoroughly mixed. Now I've got to remember to take my ladle out. I have left it in there before and it's been locked into the into the curd. Just put it like that, sort of stops the motion if you put it on its side there for a few seconds. Now it rests for an hour and a half, 90 minutes. And during that time, of course, it will continue to mature with the cultures that were added, but the rennet will set it into a nice soft curd in an hour and a half. So I'll bring you back in an hour and a half's time. Well, it has about 25 minutes to go yet in the solidifying with the rennet. And I'm getting set up for the next phase, which is putting it in the molds. The recipe recommends using a 1 pound Brie or Camembert mold, and this recipe should make 2 of those, 2 1-pound cheeses, but those are larger than I want. I don't have the mold to begin with, but I wouldn't want to cut into a 1 pound one and try to get it used up before it started molding with more than just the white mold on the outside. So I'm using 4 Camembert or small Brie molds, and they are on a board. What these were just bamboo cutting boards, really inexpensive ones. I'm not sure where I might have got them, Canadian Tire or Walmart or someplace like that. Anyway, I cut them in half and they are just now the right size, and on top of that is a layer of cheese mat and then the mold. Everything has been sanitized, which I keep forgetting to mention when I'm doing these videos. There are many methods of sanitizing. I use this product, Star San. I have used it, well, for a long time. Way back when I had goats, I always used this to sanitize all of the milk equipment. The container that your milk's going in, the milk bucket, the strainer, everything has to be sanitized. And this is what professional dairies use. I presume they buy it in 5-gallon drums or something, but the instructions tell you how much to measure out and use depending on the size of the container that you're putting the water in. And I always use the stainless steel pot that I'm making the cheese in. The one that I'm using today is smaller than I normally use because the large one will hold 16 liters, 4 gallons. And this one I only need 2 gallons, and it's not full, but it's just the right level. So I fill that just with cold water, add the sanitizer, and then everything gets dipped in it. And in dairy equipment, you never wipe it. You just put it on a draining mat and let it drain and dry, and then it's perfectly sanitized and ready to use. And that's why I like it. It's a one-step process, and it works very well. Well, I will be bringing you back shortly when I start filling these molds. You need 4 mats and 4 boards and 4 molds, and you also need 1 additional of each for when you go to flip them. They have to be flipped several times when they're in their draining process. You put that down, you put this down, you pick 2 up and flip it. So far I've never thrown one on the floor. Today may be the first day. I don't think I mentioned, but this is just a dollar store draining mat. You put like a dish rack on top of it and water drain into the sink from your wet dishes. I've used it for many years. I just, like everything else, I sanitize it every time that I use it, and it really seems to do the trick. A cheap piece of equipment. Well, the sous vide has done its work. 90 minutes. Now there will be a link down below as usual to the recipe, and they're recommending if you are using the small molds to cut your curd into inch cubes. Not doing that. I always feel that I lose curd, and this is a very soft curd to begin with. So, and also when they talk about scooping, I recommend using a slotted spoon. I find I have more success with a ladle. Now they're being filled in what they call a round robin, which makes absolute sense. You add 1 scoop or quarter scoop, whatever it is I'm using here, to each of the molds, and then you start around again. It gives it a chance for the whey to start running out. I won't make you watch me fill these things. And actually it's a bit awkward trying to work with the camera going, but I will bring you back when I have them full. One thing I will mention is if you fill them and still have curd left, it isn't anything to be concerned about. As they settle, you add the remaining curd until you've used all of it. So I'll bring you back as soon as I have these filled up. Well, there they are, filled the first time, and I still have, I don't know, roughly 1/3, I think, of the curd left to go in. So I'm just waiting now for them to settle more, and I'll continue adding. I'll bring you back once I've got it all in there. Well, at last I have it all in the molds, just topped them off for the last time. And now it is important to keep the room temperature. Again, this recipe is American, so it's giving it in Fahrenheit. Between 70 and 74 degrees. That will encourage the whey to come out of the curd. I have my room set at 22 degrees Celsius. That's roughly 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so in the target range. I will be flipping them the first time as soon as they have lost enough of the whey that they're down about 25%, about down to here on the molds. So that'll probably take another hour or more yet before I do my first flip. Well, it's not down 1/4 like I said I was going to wait, although this one here is getting down quite far. But I'm going to give them their first flip. Hopefully I'm going to give them their first flip. I remember now having this problem once before. Perhaps I should have flipped it earlier. And it'll all come out in the wash, hopefully, huh? It has settled down, but the part of it was stuck to the mat. I'll take a spoon and just sort of spread that over a bit. I don't know what you're seeing with me doing this. I have to concentrate on the molds. I can't watch the video whether you're actually seeing me flip them or not. This one's the same way. Definitely need to be flipped. Well, now that they've had their first flip, every 3 hours they will get flipped until they're down so that there's only about 1/3 of the mold that's full of curd or cheese, however you want to call it. hoping that will take care of itself, and I think it will. With the more frequent flipping them, it will hopefully stop sticking. I didn't lose it, but I almost did. Well, it slipped a bit anyway. And that one didn't have quite so much. Now they will have to, the room temperature will have to be maintained. And I increased it. It is up to 23 degrees Celsius. Look at all the whey that's come out there. And every 3 to 4 hours they will be flipped. It's now 7:30 p.m. so I will at least flip it one more time before I go to bed, and then I expect I will be up in the night to give it another flip or two. And I think that will probably be enough for this first part. I will continue when I'm up and when I'm flipping them. I will continue to make some video clips of them being flipped, and hopefully you'll see them improving. And those will go up on a video later in the week. But I want to get this put together. This is now Thursday evening, and I like to put a video out, well, midnight my time, Friday evening. And my slow internet, oh dear, yeah, my slow internet takes hours and hours and hours to upload a video of any length at all. So, yeah, the whey is really coming out now. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for part 2 and 3.